Okay, I think we're live now. Hope so anyway. This is Tim Bost with Financial Cycles Weekly, and want to welcome you to our kind of open-ended chat session here this afternoon. We wanted to offer an opportunity for everyone to get questions answered about Astro-Trading. We had a couple folks send in some questions via email, and we'll get to those in a minute or two here. I'm still trying to work with this system here of doing webinars using the Google Hangout module here. So bear with me as we explore the possibilities with this. So we've tried it a time or two before in recent months, and it's looking like it's going to be a fairly robust system for us to be able to communicate back and forth with things here. Right now I've got the camera turned off, so you're not looking at my face, but I think there's something here that will allow me to share the screen. We'll find out about that. If you are on the webinar and can hear me at this time, please type a message into the box that you should see on your screen. There should be a place there for you to enter in a question and let us communicate there. So just say hi or raise your hand or do something of that sort. Otherwise, I'm not sure if the message is getting through. So let me see if I can type in one here. So asking here, can you hear me talking? And if you are able to hear me talking, then I would appreciate a response here. We'll see what's going on. I'm getting a message from the system that says, make sure you have the right system requirements. So I'm not sure if we're actually going through here or not. So we'll work with the best that we can here and see what we can figure out here. Bear with me just one moment, and we'll see if we can pull up some of these questions that came in via email. What I'm looking for here is trying to get this other screen to open up for me here. Okay, let's see now. All righty. Let's see. Okay. Again, my apologies here for. Okay. So we want to welcome everybody. I'm not sure if the audio is working properly here or not. So looks like it's going through. I'm seeing it registering on my monitor here. And again, I apologize for the klutziness of things on this end here. So you should have a facility on the screen there for being able to type in questions. My biggest concern is whether or not we've got the audio working properly here, and I believe we do. So we'll go ahead and proceed on that basis. Right now, what we'll try to do here is see if we can share the computer screen. And let's see, screen share right here. Okay. Screen right here. Okay, now we've got the infinite regression trick going on there. Let's just see if we can make this function for us here. I don't have all my icons properly minimized here, so we'll work with this as best we can. Let's see if we can do this here. There we go. Now, we should have something that looks a little more like a blank screen at this point. At any rate, well, see if we can bring up an image here to work on so that we can talk about one of these questions. Alrighty. That's what we want. No, that's not what we want. Okay. You get to have a peek behind the scenes and see all of the inner workings of what we've been working with here. Let's take a look at current trading charts. That's what we're concerned with here today. We can get this file to open up. Very good. Excellent. Let's take a look at Aetna here. Now, if we can enlarge this a little bit, maybe we can see what we're talking about here. That's good. Good. This is the chart here, and I'm using this as an illustration of our work with planetary price lines here. And what we are looking at are planetary price lines that are projected on the basis of the positions of the planets in the sky. And we're able to compare that with price history for a particular stock or commodity, anything that we have a price chart for. And so this is what we are focusing on here with the stock for AET, which is Aetna Insurance, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And what we are showing here, of course, are the daily price bars for the stock. And the lines that are generated on this page are from the planets Pluto and Venus, and we've got first harmonic, heliocentric projections here in the eighth harmonic for these planetary price lines. Rather than going into a detailed explanation about how all this works, what we're looking at here is essentially a projection based on the correspondences between the positions of the planets in the zodiac and specific prices. This is something that we have looked at in some detail in our little book called GAN Secrets Revealed. It's that methodology for calculating the correspondences between planetary positions and various price levels with any stock or commodity. And this is one of the most basic tools that we work with in our use of astrology and market analysis. This program, by the way, is the Fibonacci Galactic Trader software program that helps us generate these planetary price lines. It's a very, very useful tool to work with, and we recommend it highly. But what we do here is simply pull up the price history, and then we calculate on the basis of the planetary movements where the major inflection points are, and then we find the harmonics that correspond with that particular stock, and we get a pattern like this. So this is important then as we are looking at a stock. I wish I had a larger cursor here. I'm not sure how to enlarge this, but perhaps you can see this as we go. What I'm trying to do is, okay, whoops. Okay, this layer is locked. Okay, I'm not trying to alter the image here. But basically here, for example, we can see that Aetna traded along a particular price range here. This goes back to, let's see, looks like the middle of March of this year through the middle of May. So we had about a 2-month period here in which Aetna was essentially trading flat. And the important thing here is that Aetna was hitting resistance along a fourth harmonic Pluto line at that time. And this was the active factor with this particular stock. And we can see this astrologically Of course, if we were just doing technical analysis with the stock, we'd still see a pattern of congestion. And any good technical analyst would say, okay, now the stock has broken out of the congestion period, so it's a bullish indicator, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks here with Aetna. And of course, this chart, by the way, is a week old. It does not show the current week's trading. We put this stock in our newsletter for this current week, suggesting that it may be a possible buy based on the technical pattern, but also what we are seeing astrologically here as well. And when we have this kind of configuration at play, what we're looking at here is a breakout into a new channel as defined by the planetary price lines. Now, what's interesting to me here is that once we get this breakout with Aetna, we've got this whole a period of about a week in which the price ascended upward into the next higher Pluto channel. And then what the stock did here was find a strong definition along the Venus line. Now, the Venus line is heading upward here, so we read that as a confirmation of the bullishness for this stock. But on that basis, then, what we're seeing is the ability to, for the stock to move higher. And it confirms our notion here that we can get into a long position with this trade. So this is an example here. The question that had come in was, how did the planetary price lines work to measure market movements? And this is just one example of that. Let's see if we can pull up another one to show you a contrast here. Let's see if we do this and this. Find another example. Let's pick one more or less at random here, just to see if we've got something. Okay, this is Shoe Carnival. Good, and this is a little different kind of configuration with the planetary price lines, and as you can see, the stock is behaving a good bit differently than we saw with Aetna. And in this case, we're looking at planetary price lines here for, let's see, these are geocentric, so this would be the lines going through the positions horizontal or at the angle there. Let's see if we can scroll over here and see what this is. I think I'm looking at Pluto lines as well here. But I believe it's Sun and Vulcanus here in this particular case. So what we're looking at then with Shoe Carnival are these price lines defining zones of support and resistance, but we're not seeing that same kind of basing pattern or consistent congestion along the planetary price lines as we saw with the previous example when we were looking at Aetna. So it's not as well defined a dynamic as we would expect to see in some cases. What's interesting here is what happens over here on the left. This stock had seen some very well-defined support along this planetary price line, which had previously been resistance over here at the left of your screen. And so we had the resistance area there. This became support, and then on that basis, continued upward until we got the meeting point of these lines. And this is what pulled this price down. We saw a very sharp decline. The high for the stock was hit at exactly the point where we have the crossing point of these planetary lines. This is why these lines can be so useful. And then once we had the break below that line that had previously formed support and been resistance, then we got the gap down and the movement all the way down to the next increment here. These are first harmonic price lines, by the way. So these are very, very powerful dynamics in terms of the astrological configurations that are there. So, we look at these configurations in this way, and we get these responses like this, and we make our best trading decisions on that basis. We also like to look at the first trade horoscopes. Let's see here if I can get out of the wonderful world of infinite regression and maybe I'm still not used to working with Windows 8, and it does some very intriguing things along the way. And I did not have my astrological program minimized here, so let's see if I can get out of this. It's going to take me right back to where I was. Okay. All right then. Okay. We'll get there eventually. Bear with me a moment if we can. Okay. We want C drive and programs. Okay. Let's try this. There we go. I think we can find something that will actually open the program here. This is, I apologize for this. This is not typically the way we work around all this, but in trying to accommodate the screen capture here with the webinar, things look a little bit different than they typically do. So we'll give us a moment to generate here, and there we go. Okay. So let's take a look here at one of these examples. This is a program called Solar Fire, which is a good general purpose program for chart calculation. There are a number of good alternatives available there that are on the marketplace for calculating astrological charts. We like to use it because of the dynamics that it can reveal, and it's a good research tool as well as an all-purpose chart calculation program. Why am I still in hourglass mode here? Okay, let's see if we can open up a new chart here. Alrighty, let's go to a file of first trade charts. And we should be able to find Etna in here with a little bit of persistence here. We should, there we go, right there. All right. Now, here's a chart for Etna, and I've gotten something very strange going on here, I can tell, because we've gotten a really odd-looking configuration, I think, with the house system on this this wheel here. Again, bear with me for a moment here, because we're dealing with some new installations here, and with okay, let's do this. Very well. Try editing the file. I did not intend for this to be a demonstration on how to work with Solar Fire, but we'll get there just the same. Okay, we've got Coke houses. We've got, what's wrong with this picture here? Just maybe it's the squeeze on the screen size there. All right, we're good. Okay. So what we're going to do here is project a buy wheel. We'll put the chart for Etna in the middle, and we'll put the current transits as of right now in the outer wheel there. And that'll give us a picture that we can work with here a little bit more effectively. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, as we were looking at the planetary price lines for Etna, what we had going on there was the indication of breaking through the Pluto resistance, moving into a higher trading channel, following the Venus line upward. All these were very, very positive dynamics, and we said that we could get some confirmation of that from a purely technical analysis standpoint as well. So the astrological dynamics are working with the technical analysis. This is one of the most important points to keep in mind here, that as we use astrology in trading and as we work with astro trading, what we get going on is the tendency on the part of some individuals to rely solely on astrology and to throw out other analytical methodologies. And what we want to do is be able to keep them all in play here. So real astro trading, as we work with it here at Financial Cycles Weekly and with our training programs, incorporates not just the astrology, but the use of fundamental analysis, the understanding of what's going on at a fundamental level in the markets and with the specific entity that we're trading. So we look at things like, for example, if we're looking at a stock, we're going to be considering earnings reports and things of that sort. But then in addition to that, we look at the technical analysis. So when we see something like a gap downward, like we saw with Shoe Carnival, or the breaking out of a basing pattern that we saw with Aetna, then that gives us an added layer of confirmation. So we want to see bullish indicators or bearish indicators in from various modalities. This is something that looks a little bit more like pure astrology. For those of you that are familiar with astrological charts, it's not a trading chart, obviously. But what we have here in the inner wheel is the horoscope for Aetna. Aetna first began trading at 10 a.m. on September the 24th, 1968. We set all of our charts for New York time for those entities that are traded on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. In this case, it's an NYSE entity that we're trading here or taking a look at. And so with that, now we're concerned here with the positions of the transiting planets, this outer ring. And here we've set it for a few minutes after we began this webinar, it's 2:17 p.m. Eastern time today. So we're here just after the, I'm sorry, 4:17 is 15 minutes after the closing bell. So this was just, after the market closed today, and we can see the configurations there. Now, the beauty of this is that, of course, we're able to use the astrology to look at these configurations ahead of time, to tell in advance whether or not we've got something going on with a particular stock in the markets. So by doing that, then we could look at Aetna a couple of weeks ahead of time and say, oh, this looks like a very, very good possibility, that's coming up here, with this particular stock, because we can see ahead of time where the planets are going to be hitting. And we notice here at the very top of the wheel, we've got transiting Jupiter. The thing looks like a number 4 there at 16 degrees of Leo, 16 degrees, 19 minutes to be exact, as we were finishing up the trading day here. And we notice that the midheaven in the chart here, the point at the apex, at the zenith of the horoscope, is at 17 degrees even of Leo. So this is a very, very powerful configuration here. So as Jupiter approaches the midheaven, what we expect to see is the price of the stock increase. And then once it works its way past that, we would see that dynamic begin to wane a bit. So our play here with this particular stock was to move in and buy shares prior to the time that Jupiter hits the midheaven exactly. And what we're doing typically with our trading program at Financial Cycles Weekly is doing swing trades. We're involved in trades for 7 or 8 trading days in each case. And as we look at something like this, then we're not wanting to get married to the stock or hold it for the long term, but looking for an advantageous time when we can expect to see it go up in price. And so we have this combination then of looking at the trading chart, studying the fundamentals, and we've got some good solid fundamentals with this company. It's an industry leader. It's been around a while. We've got a good history in terms of the price. We've got a well-defined technical chart in terms of the breakout from the basing pattern. We've got the confirmation with the planetary price lines, and then we add to the mix here these dynamics associated with the first trade horoscope, and we get a lot of action going on there as well. So it's the combination of these factors then that begins to make a difference for us and gives us the position astrologically. Now included on these chart wheels, we have the trans-Neptunian factors as well as the traditional planets. Depending on your experience with astrology, these may or may not be familiar to you, but we find them quite useful in our work here with market timing and in doing our astrological analysis for the astro trading. Let's see what we can bring up here. Bear with me one moment. Okay. All righty, so let's see if we can find another chart to take a quick look at here with solar fire. And see if we tag the quit button. That should bring it back down. Now let's try another stock that's been in the news, if we can find that here. I was thinking about what's it called? Skyworks. That's what, SWKS, I think. We've seen a lot of attention paid to this particular stock because of its connections with Apple, and it has done quite well. Let's see. Somewhere. Here we go. Well, I thought I had it in there. What is it? SW. There it is, SWKS. My apologies there. Okay. All right. So in this case, we'll do the same thing. And what we're looking at here, without doing the planetary price line analysis, is simply examining what's going on with the transits to the first trade chart. And what we want to see here is this something that's likely to continue to show some growth? And one of the things that we do when we analyze a first trade chart is to look in particular what we call the angles of the horoscope. In this case, we have the ascendant over here on the left side of the wheel. For heaven, in this case at 20 degrees of Aries, and then the nadir, the IC, is down on the bottom of the chart wheel at 20 degrees of Libra. So what we're concerned with then are these planets in the outer rings, and the question that we were answering here is, do we find something aspecting or connecting with these angles of the horoscope? Right now we've got the market closed here, we had the transiting ascendant lining up with the IC or nadir of the chart here at 21 degrees of Libra. That's something that we ignore. We don't really deal with that as a transiting factor in terms of the longer term aspects of the chart. But what's really striking here is this: we have transiting Uranus getting ready to conjoin the midheaven of this stock. Now, we always like to look at the impact of Jupiter and of Saturn, because these are kind of the key players in terms of ruling the price dynamics with a stock. And a couple of interesting things are going on here. First of all, let's comment about Uranus transiting the midheaven. Uranus has an 84-year cycle. This stock has been trading since 1998. So this is the first time that Uranus has conjoined the midheaven in this particular first trade chart. So we don't have a track record to go on. And that's one of the important factors, too, that we look at in our training for astro trading. What are the time factors that correspond with the particular planets? If we're looking at slower moving planets, then we can't use that as the basis for making trading decisions on an intraday basis. If we're looking at day trading or short-term trading, then we're going to be far more concerned with the movements of the moon and the faster moving planets like Mercury and Mars and Venus. So a lot depends on the time frames that we're looking at with our trading, and we want to coordinate the planets with that. So the important thing here is that this particular stock has not seen Uranus hitting the midheaven of the first trade chart before. So it's an unknown quantity. The nature of Uranus is to upset the apple cart, to bring lots of extra energy to the picture, and it can create sometimes a sudden price movement upward, or it can create a crash in the price of an entity as well. So our question here is, will this stock continue indefinitely with this kind of Uranus transit? Notice that Uranus is at 19.5 degrees or so, and it's, the midheaven's almost 21 degrees. So we've got a little bit of time before that's exact. We'll take a look at that timing in just a moment here. But with Uranus getting ready to hit the midheaven, we would anticipate that when this occurs, it could bring an abrupt end to a rally in the price of the stock, if that's what we've been observing. And certainly the stock has done very, very well over the last 6 or 8 months or so, at least. So in addition to that, we're concerned, as I say, with the positions of transiting Jupiter, which is here at 16 degrees of Leo. And we know that Jupiter, what we do is kind of scan this inner ring and see what else do we have at 15, 16 degrees. And what we're seeing here is that we've got the moon at 17 degrees of Virgo in the first trade horoscope. So Jupiter is forming a semi-sextile, a 30-degree angle to the moon there. And it's also forming a sextile, a 60-degree angle to the trans-Neptunian Hades up here at 16 degrees of Gemini. And in fact, Jupiter is applying to that and will hit the Hades before it hits, or the aspect of Hades before it hits the aspect to the moon in this particular case. So this is something we want to pay attention to, because as Jupiter picks up that aspect to Hades, we could get an activation of some of the negative, potentially negative impact that Hades can bring. Now we're going to get a shorter term test of that probably next week here. Mars is at 12.5 degrees of Gemini. Hades is 16, almost 17 degrees. So let's say about a 5-degree difference there approximately. And Mars moves about half a degree a day. So that means roughly 10 days from now, not this coming week, but early the week after that, around the 8th or 9th of June, we should expect to see that Mars exactly conjoining first trade Hades for this particular stock. And we would need to look at that Jupiter position at that point as well. So that might be something we will want to pay attention to. Because with a double activation from Mars and Jupiter activating Hades simultaneously, we could expect the stock to put the brakes on. That gives us exactly the same kind of information, or it really corroborates the information, we should say, that we're seeing with this transit of Uranus to the midheaven with this stock, so that we get that combination as well. And then on top of that, we have transiting Saturn in retrograde motion. Saturn's down here at 1 degree of Sagittarius, moving into a conjunction with first trade Cupido at 0 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, what happens with this is that the Cupido dynamic is about popular acceptance of a company and the general popularity on a broad basis, and its ability to connect with people on a cultural basis and to be an ingrained part of their cultural experience, their family experience. So you feel like you're a member of the tribe, so to speak, with that. Saturn acts as a restricting influence on that. So this is something, again, that we'd be a little bit hesitant about. If you're in a long position in this stock at this time, I'd be cautious about it and be very careful about that. We also note a little bit farther out here that transiting Chiron at 21 degrees of Pisces is moving toward a conjunction with first trade Jupiter at 24.53 of Pisces. It's going to take a little while to get there yet. We want to pay attention to this Uranus, the Jupiter, and of course, the Mars and Chiron as well. The Saturn is pretty much already in alignment here, so it's it's hitting pretty closely. So let's take a look at this from a little different perspective, just to show you one of the other tools that we like to work with here. And that would be the graphic ephemeris. And we can open that up right here, and we'll get this one like this. And we want radix positions, and let's go see if I can get something there that we can use. Let's find a Mars dynamic. I want to be able to include Mars. These are my lists of configurations that I use. Okay, we'll leave out the TMPs there. And we want this. Okay, select that, and then over here, we'll select that one. Okay, now let's see. And okay, we'll make it a 1 year, dynamic here. Okay, that ought to give us something we can take a look at. Now, what we're seeing here are the horizontal lines representing the planetary positions in the first trade horoscope that we were just looking at for Skyworks, for SWKS here. So when we can look at this, and it's a calendar for 2015, you can see the months here along the top, January, February, March, all the way through December. So we can see an entire year at a glance. And we were concerned with this midheaven position, which is this dotted line here. This is MC, like that. We were concerned with the Hades position right down here was one of the things that we were looking at as well. And then the first trade Jupiter, which is this double line here. Let's take a look at this midheaven dynamic for right now, because this is what's going on with transiting Uranus. Here's Uranus coming in. These curving lines are the current positions of these planets. Now notice that Uranus moving forward all the way through January, February, March, April here. We're into May right now, and actually we're getting near the end of May at this point. Now, we noted that there's still a little bit of distance between Uranus and that midheaven line. This is where it hits, right about in here. And this is telling us it's about the 1st of July, the last few days of June, that this conjunction with the midheaven will be exact. But what's going on with Uranus is that it's going to form a retrograde station and stay at virtually that same point from late June all the way through July, all the way until about the 24th, 25th of August, something like that. So this is going to be a time of extreme volatility for this stock. With Uranus, as we say, creating that sense of surprise, suggested that maybe we'd see a downturn in the price of the stock around that time because of the extra excitation of the Uranian influence at the time. But what this suggests is that it's not going away. It's not a one-day event. It's something that sticks around for a while here. And with that, we have the potential then for extra volatility in the trading dynamic. Now, the other concern that we had here was that transiting Jupiter, let's see here, it's in retrograde motion here. It goes direct back in April. Jupiter's a little bit tricky to follow. Here we go. We were looking at, was it Jupiter that we're looking at with that transit? No, that was, it was transiting Mars. That's what we were concerned about there. And we said that Mars was going to conjoin Hades here. So we're looking for that. And we see Mars up here, Mars going down to here. Okay, Mars is this one that moves through fairly rapidly. This is a 45-degree graphic ephemeris. So what happens here is it takes 8 of these passes of Mars to go 360 degrees. And you can see the relative speed of the planets here, with Mars zipping through the chart repeatedly. We're not showing the inner planets, so we're not showing the Moon, the Sun, Mercury, Venus in this particular case, because that clutters up the chart with extra lines, and we were not concerned with those. That's why I wanted to set it for Mars at the beginning of this process. So at any rate, we can see the Hades line is somewhere here, down here. Okay. So we can look at this with Mars hitting Hades The next time this comes up is August. Is that right? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I was saying it would be early in June. That's it. I'd estimated about June the 8th. It looks like it's going to be June the 4th that Mars will conjoin that Hades. So this will be our first test of things coming up with this. Now, the Mars alignments that have taken place to the left and right of this, where it's crossed that line, have not been conjunctions of Mars with that particular point. They've been multiples of 45 degrees away from that point, so they have less of an impact than the exact transit to Hades. Mars conjoins Hades in the first trade chart for Skyworks once every 2 years. It's about a 2-year cycle. So this is something we could go back and look in history of the price for the stock. Let's see, 1998. We've got about 17, 18 years of price history. So we should see 8 or 9 iterations of that Mars transit, and that could give us some good back testing to do. This is what we would do then, is look at the price history for those previous times that Mars conjoin that particular point, and we could begin to refine our conclusions about the potential for the price of the stock. But what's happening here is Mars is setting the stage. This is happening prior to this time that we see the Uranus station kick in with the stock. And my point here is that we can look at a diagram like this and begin to assess the strengths and weaknesses over a period of time with a stock as we anticipate trading it. So these are some of the basic tools that we are using here with financial astrology. Okay, now Michael is, we're getting comment here, can we make the screen any clearer? Unfortunately not. We can try this. Let's get out of the graphic ephemeris here and see that. I appreciate your comment on that. One of the things that's a little bit challenging in working with this technology here is trying to manipulate the various elements to get a very, very clear presentation. If we were using this as a slide projector in a PowerPoint in a classroom setting, I could say, okay, move a little closer to the room, or we could position the camera up a little bit closer to capture it on a video. But doing it on the fly like this, it's a little bit more difficult to work with. So my apologies if it's not totally clear. At any rate, what I wanted to show you with this was that we have a variety of tools that we can use then in analyzing the connections between the planetary positions and what's going on in the markets. We really come full circle with this. In other words, we'll take a look at a stock and see what's going on with it in terms of astrological transits. We do this as a part of our process on a regular basis here because we're interested in the astrological dynamics. Obviously, we bring an astrological bias to the whole matter here, but also because we want to narrow the field a bit. In other words, there are many options for us available for trading at any given time. There are lots of stocks that we could look at buying. We could look at commodities futures. We can look at options on equities. There are all kinds of potential plays in the market. There's no deficit or dearth of ways to expose yourself financially by getting in the markets. That's pretty much an ongoing thing. So what we want to do is be able to narrow the field a bit, because we can't do a comprehensive analysis of everything that's in the markets all the time. So what happens then is that we can use the astrological indicator here as by looking at the astrology that goes along with the trading situations. Is that we can begin to narrow the field a little bit, and we can say, okay, let's take a look at those companies that have first trade charts with Jupiter or Saturn nearing an angle in the first trade horoscope. Now, Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. So approximately once every 3 years, it's going to hit an angle in the first trade horoscope. Saturn has a cycle of about 29 and a half years, which means that about every 7 years or so, it's going to hit an angle in the first trade horoscope. So these are not everyday occurrences. It doesn't happen to all stocks all the time. So when we get these combinations then and find that something like that is happening, it may impact the stock for a few weeks, a couple of months perhaps, depending on whether the transiting planet is going to be stationary or not, like we were looking at Uranus a moment ago. But then when we have that, we can begin to narrow the spectrum of the stocks that we're examining. We can go back to our technical analysis and our fundamental analysis and refine the picture somewhat. So if there are very interesting planetary transits coming up that catch our attention, the stock may make the cut at that point. But if we then look at their earnings reports and say that, okay, they're not making any money at all, they're not showing any profits, then the chances of the stock continuing to do well are rather limited. So we'll bow out on that basis. So that's what we're doing with all of this. Now, let's see here. There was another question. What is Project Regulus? Okay, that's we've talked a good bit about that in passing here, and let's see if we can. I don't know if I can find this here on this screen or not. Bear with me for a moment because we did have some slides about that somewhere here. That was not one I was prepared to talk about, but maybe we can find it reasonably quickly with this funky system here. I don't know. Okay, this is program files. Okay, go back to program files, and this is called Open Office. Okay, we'll try that. Okay, program. Maybe it's in program. Maybe. Application. All right, let's try this. Quick start. Let's try that. See if it blows up on us or if it works. Again, this is not the typical way that I'm used to using this computer, so my apologies here, trying to make sure that we get the screen capture and have everything work. It's not exactly the way we typically are doing things. I'm not sure that I did anything with that. Hello? Not starting quickly. It says quick start. Hello? Let's see. Maybe, okay, this is, let's try this one. It might be, maybe it likes that. Try minimizing this. Aha! Now let's see. Okay. Well, there's some files that we can find something here. If we have other, yeah, we do have some other viewers. Okay, my apologies there. We had a little glitch in the computer system, so I hope you're still with us here. I see a few names still on the screen, so welcome at this point. And at this point, do you have any other questions you'd like to add? We had the question there about Project Regulus, and I was trying to find a slide to illustrate that with obviously disastrous results. At any rate, Project Regulus is a program that we have underway, or we're getting ready to launch, I should say, on the 16th of June. It's designed to be a comprehensive training program in astro trading, and has a couple of unique features because what we're doing with this new project is providing a series of training modules that are designed to give you a lot of the know-how, the nuts and bolts of how to use some of these tools, like we've been illustrating here today. And there's a lot more, where this comes from, obviously, because as we begin to apply some of these astrological dynamics to the markets, then we get into a lot of refinement and a lot of potential complexity as well. So there's a lot of layers to that. But Project Regulus has as its first aim to provide a sense of perspective about what is right for you personally and your engagement in the markets. Do you want to be a day trader or a longer term investor? Should you be in the markets at all? And how do you position yourself financially? I think it's very, very useful for anyone to learn about how the markets work and how to manage risk and how astrology relates to all of that, whether or not you're actively trading on a daily basis. So that potential for a broader perspective is there as a part of Project Regulus. In addition to that, as I say, we deal with the nuts and bolts, the actual tools of astro trading, so that you can be much more confident and much more competent in getting the results that you want from your trading. Now, in addition to our modules for training, which consist of videos and audios and downloadable PDF files and so forth, and each of our training modules really is equivalent to a complete course in itself. We'll be spacing these out over the course of a year so that you're not overwhelmed with getting so much information at once that you can't use it. So this will be kind of doled out in increments over the course of a year. And as that happens, then we will begin to refine the process as we go ahead. So then in addition to that, we're going to have regular mentoring calls. The question is that with our mentoring calls, we'll get together twice a month to answer your specific questions. If we can perfect this technology, we'll use something like this so we can have live charts in front of us and work with it a little bit more. Otherwise, we'll be doing Q&A conference calls, and we may have some of each during the course of the year as we work with the various technological alternatives. But the aim there is not just to get your questions answered about the course material, but also to keep you on track and accountable with the progress that you're making. So that we can continue to move forward there. That's what we're doing with Project Regulus. In addition to that, we will have a special event in the summer of 2016. We're calling it the Heart of the Lion Astro-Trading Symposium. And the idea there is to get together the people who participate in the class, along with other interested parties, and want to invite some of the top players in astro trading to come participate and share their ideas and opinions then as well. So we'll have that event to get everybody together with for the end of the summer next year. So that will be kind of the culmination of the class experience. It's a great opportunity to learn from other people, make new friends, and expand your horizons a great deal with that kind of experience. We love having those kinds of events, but because of the cost of travel and the various considerations there, we are doing a lot less of that kind of thing than we used to. So that's why we're planning at least a year ahead of time here for that particular event, the Heart of the Lion Astro-Trading Symposium. So those are the components of the Project Regulus program. It's going to be very, very dynamic. We are launching it on the 16th of June. We'll be getting out a lot more information for you on it between now and then. However, I should mention the fact that we also have an opportunity that's open here until the end of the day on Sunday, midnight Eastern time, Sunday night, at the end of May, and when the clock strikes 12 and it becomes June, then this part of the program closes down. We have an opportunity to become a charter member of Project Regulus. And what's happening with the charter membership is that there are additional bonuses attached to that program, including lots of extra coaching calls and newsletter subscription, and an opportunity to serve on our curriculum council for Project Regulus, to offer your ideas and suggestions about refining what it is that we're doing with the training program. And the charter members who do sign up by the end of Sunday get about a 60% discount on the tuition for the program as well. So we're trying to incentivize that very, very highly because we're asking for active participation, and we want your feedback and your input in the program. So we welcome all of you to attend to that. We've got, I'll give you the link here, and I see a question here that Ed has asked about gold. We'll get to you in a moment, Ed, on that. Let's see if I can actually get this thing to type in a message, and what I will do is see if we can get the URL for a link to information about the charter membership program here. This is so if you go to vibrationcode.com/charter, not Carter. I did it wrong. Let me try retyping that. I'll send you an email after this as well with an actual link to it. So again, this is part of the clunkiness of trying to do the screen captures and managing all this. And Mercury's retrograde too. We have to give that acknowledgement here also. So let's see. vibrationcode.com/CHAR. Let's see if that got it right. I think that's correct there. Vibrationcode.com/charter. Okay. At any rate, that's the link there, and you'll find the information on that program. Ed had a question about gold, so let's talk about that for a moment here. With gold, we've been tracking a number of different factors here, and have recently moved from a bullish stance on gold to a bearish one, and this is something that we pay attention to in a tangential way. It's very interesting because there are a lot of people who are very, very interested in gold and gold trading, and in many cases, what we're doing here is trying to figure out what the vehicle is that they're most interested in. So it's intriguing because we've got the first trade chart for COMEX gold, and in fact, let's see if I can switch over here. Maybe we can try the screen share again and get out of all that nonsense and see if we can find the chart for COMEX gold here as we speak. Hello. Okay, this is good. All right. And what we're looking at, we track the transits to the chart with COMEX Gold. We also look at the trading charts for the World Gold Index, which combines the strike prices globally, and it's a very useful tool there because it takes out a little bit of the noise, with gold. But we also base our trading decisions on the gold ETF, GLD. And I like using that because it puts gold within the range of the man on the street investor, instead of having to control large units of gold or be highly leveraged in a position. It gives individuals a way of evaluating the trading dynamics and being able to examine things on that basis. So let's see here. We're going to get out of these, and we're going to go to, I think under futures, maybe. Yes, COMEX Gold. That's the one we want right there. Okay, good. So what we're going to do here is take a look at the chart for COMEX Gold and the current transits as we did. Yeah. And again, I hope this screen is clear enough. We won't pull up the graphic ephemeris here in this regard. Because of that limit. So what we've got going on here with gold is a very interesting situation here, because right now by transit we've got Pluto in retrograde motion at 15 degrees of Capricorn. Mercury for the chart for COMEX Gold is at 16 degrees of Capricorn. And what this says is that we've got a huge amount of powerful potential in the communications relative to gold, and this is going to be something that's very, very much in play in some very prominent ways right now. Gold is a very interesting situation here when we look at these astrological dynamics, because in addition to that, we've got some alignments here that are quite interesting to be aware of. In terms of the planetary movement, over here on the right side, we see transiting Jupiter, 16 degrees, 19 minutes of the sign of Leo, and the seventh house cusp, the descendant in the first grade chart for COMEX Gold, is at 1628 of Leo. So this is aligning very, very precisely right now with that angle of the chart for gold. And this chart for COMEX Gold is December 31st, 1974. That we like to use this particular chart in doing our some of our analysis with gold. And so this is a very, very powerful and very positive kind of configuration. This is what's going on short term. A little bit longer term than that, we see Saturn here in retrograde motion is moving away from the midheaven in the COMEX Gold chart. Saturn's at 1 degree of Sagittarius, and it is the midheaven's at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. So we have to wait for Saturn to finish its retrograde motion, go back into direct motion, and then hit that midheaven before we see a major impetus toward another downturn in gold. So what I'm interested in doing is playing this window between the two. We've got the applying Jupiter influence coming in faster than the Saturn influence. We've got Pluto here reinforcing a lot of clout to the gold market. And one of the concerns that we've got here, of course, is the amount of volatility, the amount of speculation. And notice this configuration here, transiting Uranus. We looked at this with, what was it, the chart with Etna, as conjoining the Chiron in the chart for gold. And this is a very, very interesting kind of configuration. Chiron is all about situations that can be quite distressing, quite upsetting, look like problematical dynamics, and then what happens on the back end is that they turn out to be extremely favorable. And so when we get Uranus impacting Chiron, we have that sudden surprising situation in which we can get a shift in the market, in this case the market for gold, and it can actually, what looks like a bad scene can actually prove to be an advantage longer term. On the downside, this kind of configuration with Uranus Chiron can create a whipsaw effect. So you put it on a position and immediately get blown out of the position, whether you're long or short gold. So this adds another dynamic to the potential volatility that we're seeing there, and it's something that's we need to keep an eye on, especially because that's a very, very tight alignment right now. And understand that whenever there is something in terms of a short-term position, if with gold that looks like a major downturn, for example, has come into play again, take a second look. In other words, if you're trading daily bars, then look at the weekly bars, look at the monthlies as well, to get a broader perspective on what's going on with this particular market, because the indication here is that it can actually turn out to be advantageous when things look very, very bad. Now, on top of that, over here on the left, this is a little slower moving dynamic, but it's something that we want to be aware of. It's a transit we're going to keep an eye on. Neptune moves very slowly. It's at 9 degrees of Pisces. The COMEX gold Jupiter is at 13 degrees of Pisces. The Neptune-Jupiter combination creates a great deal more speculation and can create a buying frenzy for gold. So this is the kind of thing that the gold bugs keep looking for, but it is not going to get aligned here just yet. We've got a while to wait on that Neptune transit that is coming down the road. So all of this, Ed, in response to your question, if you're still with us here following all of this, is that what we're saying here is that right now we are bullish gold shorter term, based on this Jupiter dynamic in play. A little farther down the road, we do expect a pullback in gold. And what we do is mark our positions here as we take our positions in gold. We note those in our newsletter, by the way, on a weekly basis, where we stand with the gold and where our trigger point is for a trend reversal. And we adhere to that, and we base those reversals on a weekly close, so we don't get stopped out and switch positions on an intra-week basis in most cases. So we like to see what the trend is doing and follow at least a weekly dynamic with our trading with gold. Again, we more actively will trade the ETF in this case, but we also calibrate it, by the spot price for gold as well. So based on that, then we are short-term bullish. We do expect another pullback here prior to the end of the year as Saturn moves into alignment there with that midheaven in the COMEX gold chart. Longer term, for the long term, we are quite bullish for gold. We think the price is considerably depressed by the powers that be behind the scenes that manipulate the markets, and this is definitely one of the more manipulated markets. So we kind of take that as a given. And don't bellyache about it, but we prefer to be able to apply these astrological tools to give us an advantage in the face of odds that are not necessarily in our favor there. So that's what we're looking at there. We want to be able to increase the likelihood of trading successfully, increase the probability of having a successful analysis there. And again, that Chiron Uranus configuration is a reminder there for us as well, to be willing to stay the course, take a few bumps along the way, in the interest of having some longer term positions. So basically, this is how we prefer to allocate with the gold. We have a core position that we're holding for the very long term, and have had for quite some time there. In fact, that's in some gold mining shares that we continue to hold and have seen tremendous appreciation and a big pullback, but we're a net gain, and we're talking about holding a position for years in that regard. So that's congruent with our longer term outlook for gold, which is decidedly bullish. Short term, we happen to be bullish right now as well. Intermediate term, there is the expectation of a pullback there as well. So if you're trading gold with a shorter term horizon, then the idea here would be to take a long position at this time, play your stops reasonably tightly, pay attention to that Uranus Chiron dynamic there, so that you don't get whipsawed out of a trade too rapidly. But when you begin to see the signs of a downturn confirmed by Saturn hitting the midheaven in the COMEX gold chart, then I would be selling out of the position and looking for a fresh buying opportunity for the longer term. So I hope that convoluted ramble gave you an answer, Ed, but that's exactly how we do that analysis with gold. And your question was, what's happening? And then, is it still a buy? Question from Michael here. Hi, Michael. What's your overall market view? Is it bullish or bearish for the rest of the year based on the planetary positions? I've been surprised that by the degree to which the planetary positions, when we do our analysis of them in the aggregate, tend to hold up for overall bullishness. But my expectation is that we're going to see a fairly healthy corrective move in the fall. Probably late September, early October, again, based on the planetary positions here. At the risk of, let's see, can we do this one? Let's pull up an S&P chart here. At the risk of doing something that will not be clearly visible on the screen, let's pull open a new chart and take a look at that here. Okay, we want to open. Yes, please. And this is not futures markets. We want to go. There are a number of charts that we can use in analysis of the markets as a whole, and it's very interesting to play with them and compare them here. In this case, what I wanted to see here was. I got McWhorter in here because that's an interesting chart to analyze. There it is. Okay, let's take a look at this chart individually first. This is horoscope, and I apologize. Let's see if I do this. Can I bring it a little bit smaller? No, okay. Apologize for not being able to regulate the screen size here as well as I would like. But this is a horoscope for the New York Stock Exchange. We just passed the birthday for the New York Stock Exchange, by the way. It was born on May 17th in 1792. Tradition has it that that was the day that traders got together under the buttonwood tree at the base of Wall Street there and began their trading. At least that's what's recorded in the history books. And so, that's what we're looking at there. With that kind of chart, of course, it's uncertain as to the exact time of day. So there's been some speculation about that. We're pretty sure they got together in the morning hours. Louise McWhorter, who was a financial astrologer back in the 1930s and wrote a classic book on stock market analysis with astrology, had this chart, which is timed in a very interesting manner. She sets it for 7:52 a.m. and uses Eastern Standard Time. Now, in 1752, there was no such thing as Eastern Standard Time. So charts have been calculated with local mean time, and there's been some discussion as to whether it was, 7:52 a.m. or 8:52 or 9 a.m. or whatever. Then you'll find variations on this. So in this sense, the time calculation is a little bit bizarre because it is an Eastern Standard Time chart for a year in which Eastern Standard Time was not used, but it has proven to be a very useful chart wheel in terms of the transits to the chart. One of the things I like about it is that it puts Chiron on the ascendant for the chart of the New York Stock Exchange at 15 degrees of Cancer. That ascendant's at 1442. So Chiron was just rising at the time of the founding of the New York Stock Exchange. When we plug in the trans-Neptunians, it's also quite telling because we get the moon in the conjunction with Zeus, the planet trans-Neptunian, that adds a tremendous amount of energy. And of course, the moon is about emotions, and we get a tremendous emotional impact with the markets, and that's what drives the markets in dramatic ways. and that's what we're going for there as well. The other factor that we pay attention to with this chart is the conjunctions, a little bit wide here, conjunction of about a 4-degree orb or so, almost 5-degree orb of Jupiter and Neptune. Remember, we mentioned this Jupiter-Neptune combination as having to do with speculation, and that's certainly what the New York Stock Exchange is all about. So it's a very interesting chart to analyze on its own. We won't go into a lot of detail with that, but let's take a look at it as a bi-wheel here, and look at this as the inner ring, based on the current transits, and see what's going on here. Now, remember that I mentioned this tight conjunction of the moon and Zeus here at 18 degrees and moon at 1840. Uranus has moved over that point just recently here. We did see that kind of mini pullback in the markets recently when that transit was exact, and so this is still very much in play. It adds some volatility to the situation here, with the dynamics there. Notice as well that we've also had transiting Jupiter conjoin the natal Uranus in the chart for the New York Stock Exchange as well. So that certainly adds to the mix a great deal. So what we're looking at here is primarily this question of the retrograde Saturn movement and what's it going to hit by opposition here. So bear with me for a moment here. We're going to pull up the graphic ephemeris, see if we can see it on the screen. And again, I recognize the fact this is one of the harder diagrams to see when we try to transmit it through the ethers like this, but we will take a look at it right now, and we want to see what Saturn is doing. Hello. View the chart, please. Oh, wait a minute. It's probably buried down here somewhere. Is that right? Okay, like this. All right. Okay. This is this New York Stock Exchange chart, and this is transiting Saturn. We've got Saturn as this curvy line here. It's going forward here. It went retrograde in mid-March. It's going back here, and it makes a direct station coming up in mid-August. And this is what we're going to be keeping an eye on here, because as it does so, it's going to, it doesn't make the station right on the planetary lines here, but as it begins to move forward again, this is Saturn once again in motion at this point, and then it hits here, that moon and Zeus dynamic in mid-October, October 18th, 20th, 24th, all of that time frame. It may act a little bit early there. And we're looking here for the Mars trigger coming in at the end of September, 1st of October as well. And Mars, and this is transiting Uranus, by the way. Remember, we saw that transiting Uranus station here impacting Etna. It doesn't do quite the same thing, with the chart for the New York Stock Exchange as a whole, but what's happening here is that we get into the end of September, and it looks like here maybe October 1st, September 30th, October 1st, we get that combination of the Mars line and the Uranus line exactly hitting this moon Zeus combination in the inception chart for the New York Stock Exchange. A very, very powerful configuration there. So what happens here is that Mars lends some extra energy to the mix with that configuration as we get a little farther toward the fall here. So that's about the time frame that I'm looking at as a potential for a price pullback. My expectation is it'll be a fairly significant correction in the markets. Again, how you position yourself depends on your time horizons, your trading perspectives. This is one of the things that we try to do with our new program in Project Regulus, is help you establish what those parameters should be for you personally. It's very interesting here because in many cases, people that are traders become investors inadvertently. You know, we got something. I bought a stock that I expected to go up, and you know, it went up for a while. I expected it to triple after it had already doubled in price, so I held on to it when it started to come back down, and now it's worth a tenth of what I paid for it. And so now I'm a long-term investor because I'm never going to sell this until it comes back to where I was when I bought it. If you've told yourself that kind of story or heard that story told, then you're one of those traders who suddenly became an investor with a particular position because it turned against you. That is a very, very dangerous place to be in the markets. It's far better to decide ahead of time which things you're going to keep for a longer term time horizon, and what you want to position yourself in shorter term. So again, as we look at the potential for a pullback toward the mid-fall of this year, in September, October, we're not looking at this as necessarily a major market crash, but it may be a buying opportunity if you have cash on the sidelines and are looking for longer-term dynamics. If you're a tried and true buy and hold kind of investor, if you're want to emulate Warren Buffett, that might be a good time to add to some solid positions, provided that the fundamentals are still in place at that time and that the astrology looks good for them individually. We can say, I think with a high degree of certainty, that the market will be under some stress at that point. But again, there may be other things that impact the markets as well. So we keep an eye on that. Of course, we study the patterns of solar eclipses and other astrological factors as we go. So isolation based on just this one chart analysis. But I wanted to, again, to give you an example of how we proceed with responding to a question like yours, Michael. You know, what's your what the overall market view is? Is it bullish or bearish? Well, short term, we remain bullish with the markets. You know, somewhat cautiously so. We are continuing to play our stops fairly snugly and lock in profits almost compulsively when we can on trades, so that we sometimes get stopped out a little bit prematurely. We're not trying to maximize profits necessarily, but we would rather protect trading capital at this point. That's a higher priority than sticking our neck out too much at this particular juncture. But still, the attitude is bullish, at least until mid-September or thereabouts, and then we'll be considering shifting a little bit more aggressively to a bearish position in terms of our trading. The interesting thing here is that as we do the analysis each week of the trading potential trading candidates, we begin with the astrological analysis. We do look at the fundamentals, the technical indicators as well, move along with that. And then what happens is that we have on several occasions in the past month or two here introduced short positions into our model portfolio, only to get stopped out of them very, very rapidly. Occasionally we've been able to scalp off a small profit, but in most cases we've taken a loss on our shorts here under the current market conditions. That's why I say I continue to be surprised at the persistence of the bullishness in the markets, and that comes not just from the astrological analysis, but also from the practical experience of being in the markets and seeing what happens to our positions as we go. Okay, so anybody else have one more question to close with here? We've been together for about an hour and a half, and again, my apologies for the clunky mechanical dynamics. We put up with what we can here. I see we still have a few people lingering at this point, and glad to take more time with you if you have more pressing concerns. If not, we'll shut down things here in a moment or two. I want to thank you for taking time to join me here today. We do have webinars with various topics and whatnot, and so it's gratifying not only to be able to spend the time with you, but to actually have some questions and to be able to provide some answers there as well. And Michael saying thank you. Michael, thank you for joining us, and Ed and Ivy and everybody else who's been a part of the conversation here today. It's been glad to have you all aboard. Again, I appreciate your taking time to ask questions. Again, I want to emphasize this opportunity that we have coming up here through this weekend to join us as a charter member at our new Project Regulus program. And I'll send out an email here to everyone who's signed up for the webinar to make sure that you have the link to that. so that you can take a look at the specifics with that. And one of the things it does is offer us a lot more opportunities to do exactly this kind of thing that we've been doing here today. Hopefully with a little bit more technical finesse, but we definitely want to be able to maintain the contact and to have these follow-up sessions on a regular basis with this new program. So that's a part of what we're building into the mix here. So if there are no more questions then, and I'm not seeing a couple of thanks, and thanks to everybody who's been a part of this conversation again. So we're going to sign off here, and we will let you know that I think this thing has made a recording. I'm not sure that it's something you'll want to watch a replay of or not, but if it looks viewable at all, I will send you a link to that as well. Again, there's a little bit of weirdness with the technical stuff here, so we're trying to get better at this as we go along. This is a little different format that we've used in the past. So thanks to everyone for attending, and we'll be talking with you real soon. Look for an email from me within the next 30 minutes or so with some links there as well. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Let's see now. Can we get out? What did we do? Stop hearing. And I think we're still live here. We'll stop the broadcast.